Brodhead Armory was actually established as a historical landmark at the city, the state, and the federal level. So you can see on this particular slide some of the indicators of the NRHP reference number, when it was added to the National Historic Preservation Sites, etc. The building is, the historical designation is more than just the murals. It's actually the architecture. So William Buck Stratton was a very famous architect. He actually was part of the Michigan Navy Militia, and he actually designed Brodhead Armory. And so the actual historical designation is not just the murals, which everybody hears about. It's actually the physical layout of the building. It's and that's a big part of the historical designation. He later married Mary Porter, who founded Poetic Pottery. So Poetic Pottery, Mary actually designed some of the tiles on the front of the building. Pretty interesting. Let's see, my down button is not working, so I'm using my cursor here. So this is a little bit of the vision. I think I already hit on that. Here's a little bit of what the task that we had to, we realized that, hey, if we're going to become something real, we have to be real. So we created originally the Brodhead Association, which is a nonprofit, and set up a bank account with TCF Bank, which is, I understand, going to become Huntington Bank now. And then Brodhead Armory Preservation Society had an account with Comerica Bank. So it was a little bit stale. We kind of dusted it off, updated its records with the state of Michigan and the IRS, and reestablished Brodhead Armory Preservation Society. We call it BAPS. But what was interesting is when Brodhead was open, BAPS used to conduct tours almost every quarter, and they get about 100 people. And they would go through Brodhead and show them the artwork, the historical designation. They would explain it to them. And they had tour groups go through there, about 100 people, about every 2 or 3 months. Well, these were some of the things that we had to do to establish our organization. Once we created Brodhead Association and we resurrected BATS, Butzelong Law Firm was a very reputable law firm in Detroit. They suggested that we open up an LLC for the development and restoration, and we did. So from looking in the building, I use a little thing we learn in the Navy. We call it stop the bleeding, restore the breathing, and then treat for shock. and what we wanted to do is we wanted to stop the bleeding of Brodhead and then restore the breathing. If you think about it, we don't want, 1930s era electrical and ventilation and all that sort of stuff. So that's a pretty straightforward fix. We update all the electrical, all the plumbing, put LED lights in there. And we started doing an analysis of alternatives of what could it be? Because it's not going to be a Navy or Marine Corps Reserve Center ever again. But it does have a lot of training classrooms, and we could use those. So we created an organization, and this is a very small representation of the organization. Today, there's literally hundreds of people. We try to keep the organization small to facilitate decision making and because we're trying to move pretty quickly. But the reality is, once we get into operations, if we can move forward, there's many, many more people that will be involved. And then I want to go into a little video. It was created by Master Chief Mark Hackla, an interesting guy. He was in the Navy, and he was a medical corpsman at Brodhead for the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps doesn't have any healthcare people. They use the Navy's healthcare people for all the Marines. And that's still to this day. So Mark was a Navy guy, but he was a hospital corpsman and he was helping the Marines at Brodhead. And then he went to DC and now he manages the honor guard, the presidential honor guard, and the honor guards that service all the burials at Arlington National Cemetery. But I got a nice little video from him that I'd like to show you. And Mark created this, an extremely talented individual. So let's see if I can pull this up for us. Stop. I think I might have to stop share. It's about a 14-minute video. And I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to pull up this video. I think that's it. Where did it go? It is here. Well, I can do this in another way. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to do screen share again. Go to my Zoom. And how do I do this screen share? I got the video all up here. I just need to turn it on for you to see. And share screen. Are you seeing a video?
Not
yes
yet.
or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, and let me try this again. There's the Zoom meeting, share screen. And here it is. But you're not seeing that, are you?
We are not.
Let's try one more time. It's about here we go.
There you go.
Share.
Okay, you got it. We see it coming up now.
You see a video? A sailor there?
Yeah, we see the sailor, yes.
Okay, here we go. It's go about 10 minutes, but it's fun.
I'm Master Chief Mark Hackler. I spent 30 years in the Navy, but I spent my whole life being intrigued by naval customs, traditions, history, heritage, and uniforms. So I'd like to share some of that enthusiasm with you using some items in my personal collection to get us started. Let's see what's in the sea chest today. On the east side of Detroit is a building with an absolutely incredible history, the Detroit Naval Armory, also known as the R. Thornton Brodhead Armory. In addition to training Navy and Marine Corps reservists, this building with its huge drill deck was host to public events and sporting events. It would accumulate the most extensive collection of Depression-era art of any building in the state of Michigan. I have quite a few things that deal with the history of this building. October 6, 1930, the Detroit Naval Armory is opened with huge fanfare and festivities. The building had been designed by William Buck Stratton, a noted architect in the area and also a crew member of USS Yosemite. On the facade of the building are 5 Pewabic pottery tiles. This is an art pottery still in existence just up the street, known for its iridescent glazes. Its founder, Mary Chase Perry Stratton, was married to the architect. By the time the building opened, the country was in the midst of a depression. And the state of Michigan didn't earmark all that much money for the upkeep of the building. So Commander Brodhead had to get creative. The drill deck was absolutely gargantuan, so it would be easy to set up bleachers and have public events. On his first run for the White House, Franklin Delano Roosevelt campaigned on that drill deck. But the most common event was boxing matches. In fact, in the fall of 1932, a young fighter, Joseph Barrow, decided he was ready for his first bout. Now, he'd been training in secret, so just to make sure his mother didn't find out what he'd been doing, he dropped his last name and just went with his first and his middle name, Joe Louis. That first fight against Johnny Myler, who had been on the U.S. Olympic boxing team, was an amateur bout scheduled for 3 rounds. In 2 rounds, Joe Louis was knocked down 7 times, and they called the fight. He obviously learned from it because he went on to become the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time and one of the greatest African-American athletes in history. He went on to serve in the Army in World War II and is buried now in Arlington National Cemetery. In addition to the rental income, Commander Brodhead had been tapping into funds available through the Works Progress Administration, one of Roosevelt's initiatives to keep people employed. He'd been using the money for janitorial support, but then he found out that there was a subset program within the WPA, the Federal Art Projects. This was designed to pay artists to put their works inside public buildings. Commander Brodhead had an addition put on up top, the wardroom or the officers' dining area, and it had a long wall with bookcases and a fireplace. He thought murals would be perfect, so he chose a young and promising artist by the name of David Friedenthal. In his young career, Friedenthal had gotten 2 Guggenheim fellowships, and his works can now be found in 47 museums and other public collections. Friedenthal's figures are very classic to the Depression era. Figures, even at rest, are shown straining, torquing, twisting. It's ironic that when so many people were out of work, the subject of many of these murals was work. Friedenthal did his murals al fresco. He did it right onto wet plastic. In addition to the 5 panels he did surrounding the fireplace, he also did a smaller work in the bar area. In the adjacent mess hall, Brodhead wanted to get some additional murals. His officers weren't too keen on Friedenthal's style, though, and they wanted paintings of ships. When Brodhead approached Friedenthal with this, Friedenthal said, "Painting ships, that's billboard work, it's beneath me." So Brodhead got an additional artist, Edgar Yeager, who was an accomplished painter. And Brodhead gave photographs of the ships that had either been at Detroit or with one of the Great Lakes naval militias. Yeager's challenge was, in essentially a rectangular room, to paint these ships on the walls and not make it look like it was billboard work. And what he did was ingenious. From each corner, Yeager put details to give you the illusion that you were standing on the deck of your own ship, looking off to port or starboard at these other ships anchored around you. He even included 2 funnels with mirrors in them to give a little bit more depth to the room. The effect was absolutely fantastic, and his work was hailed by newspaper art critics. In 1975, Yeager was brought back to touch up his work and Friedenthal's, and he got the opportunity to do something he hadn't done before, sign his work. Each of these painters had crews of assistants working with them. One of them, John Tabachuk, a Polish immigrant who was also a wood carver, was asked to do inset wood carvings on the various doors around the building. He ended up doing about 20 of these, but then Brodhead had another idea. Why not have the banister leading from the first deck up to the 3rd deck wardroom carved? This turned into a whole new project for Tabachuk. This incredibly beautiful, intricate woodwork portraying sea creatures real and imagined was just absolutely gorgeous. One of Edgar Yeager's assistants, Gustav Hildebrand, would get his own project. A key player in the murals had been a Belgian plasterer whose name is lost to history. He was able to lay plaster up perfectly, no holes, and this enabled Hildebrand to carry out his idea, which was to do line drawings of sailors engaged in various maritime activities. See sailors on guard duty, working the capstan, hoistoning the deck, and even on one side there is a small drawing of a cat, because Tom, the Armory's cat, used to come and mooch lunch off of Gustav Hildebrand every day. In 1938, one of the officers came up with a great idea. At the back wall of the drill deck, opposite the front door, they created the entire starboard side of a ship. On this, they included every kind of fitting that would help to train sailors. There were deck fittings, there were deck guns, there was a bridge with a helm, engine order telegraph, a signal bridge. It was incredibly innovative. In 1940, America could see war on the horizon. In order to get ready, every reserve and National Guard element was recalled to active duty. This would provide a new opportunity for the Armory. Into the huge drill deck were brought bunk beds and lockers, and this was now turned into a bedroom for 500 sailors who were here as one of two schools, the Electricians' Mate School and the Diesel School. The school continued to operate all the way to the end of the war. In 1943, a veteran of many decades of service, Captain Brodhead retired. He would stay a member of the Armory Board of Control until 1947, when he passed away. In honor of his decades of faithful service, the state of Michigan officially renamed the building the R. Thornton Brodhead Armory. In 1948 was the 50th anniversary of the Spanish-American War, and the surviving veterans of USS Yosemite donated a huge bronze plaque listing the name of the entire crew, and it was surmounted by a wooden carving of the ship. Absolutely gorgeous. Additionally, outside the building, a bas-relief sculpture was put up to honor the service of different missions. The building protected facilities because of minimal resistance in the war, the balcony was surrounding the building, and offices and classrooms were perfect buildings.
I can't hear that. You need to stop the video. I can't hear that.
Jim,
You need to stop.
It's a little distorted.
Yeah, let's do the presentation. Why did you want this building? Come on, man. Come on.
Go ahead. Hey, Jim, what you want to go ahead and finish, at least finish the video, because there's some parts in there I think people should see.
It's almost over. Okay, so I stopped that because I heard that some people couldn't hear. Is that right?
Right, we were losing the audio, although we did see the video. We could see the video.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, that's for the most part the video. I would like to go through and run through a couple slides of a different presentation here, which I think you'll enjoy, and it talks about the new where we are on the new Brodhead. So let me see if I can pull this up to share.
Okay.
It's let's see if this is it. Screen share. This is not it. I wonder why it's not coming up here. It's PowerPoint. Here it is. Okay. And now I'll just hit my screen share and share the screen. See if you see this Brodhead Armory project. Do you see that?
Not yet.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, it took 3 times last time. The third time was a charm.
iPhone, iPad. Okay. Let's do this.
I love technology, especially when you work remote. There you go. You have just
Well, this is not what I want you to see. I'm going to do go over to here and see if you see the Brodhead Armory project.
No, we're looking at Welcome to the Holiday Inn, which is obviously where you're staying. There's another, you must have another screen up that you can share.
I'm going to do a new share.
Okay. I know I've been in the same position.
There's Zoom. And I'm hitting the share button, but it's not coming up for you guys, is it?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still looking at the.
Oh, that's the
Holiday Inn.
Brodhead Armory. I'm going to stop share again.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do share screen again. Here we go. That you should see it. You see Brodhead Armory project?
It's coming up. I think it's connecting because we're seeing just you started to share. So.
And I'm at 5:34.
We got it.
Okay.
The Brodhead Armory. Yep, you're good to go.
So what this looks like, we would, this is what our vision is. So the inside, we would completely restore, and this building in the back is what we'd call phase 2, which would be veterans preference lodging. It's might be somewhere between 12 and 20 stories tall. That would be part of phase 2, but it would provide some insulation in the event that we have some kind of downturn in the economy. So I'm going to have to do this manually. So this is some of the vision of what we would, some of our purposes: strengthen the local economy, foster civic beauty, stabilize and improve property values, safeguard the heritage of the city. And then we would, we believe this is some of the community benefits. This presentation is available online, and I can direct you to it, or Chip can. We'll completely rebuild the physical structure of the Brodhead Armory to its former glory. Restore all the artwork and the murals and woodwork and physical artifacts. We've actually identified where many of the missing pieces are in private collections or in storage. So we would actually be able to bring those back to Brodhead, and that's our intention. Anything that we wouldn't be able to find, similar to what they're doing with the train station, we can actually restore them with the images that we have right now. I've also been in touch with Ruth Ann Friedenthal. Her father was the one that painted those murals. He actually worked with Diego Rivera on the murals in the Detroit Institute of Arts. That was part of his inspiration. We have a lot of connections to help basically take things that haven't had the right kind of attention and bring them back to life. This is some of the funding. We know that we have the appropriate level of funding to make this project a reality. I've been working on it a little over 2.5 years, and one of the questions that comes up frequently is, well, you're another group that comes around here with a great idea, but you really can't make it happen. I'm 100% confident, 100% confident we can pull this off and make it happen. There's no doubt in my mind. And I won't even have to spend my own money, but I'd be happy to. So this is some of the sources of funding that we would be looking at. And then We have a tower here, which would be part of phase 2, and it's pretty exciting. I'm going to roll through this a little. It's going to scatter on your screen a little bit here. I apologize for that, but I'm not going to go through this whole presentation. I'm going to give it some time to refresh.
With the understanding that the lingering narrative of racial injustice is this old type of ideological system that spins out particular outcomes, the outcomes that we live and that we have been, taught to kind of normalize and accept. But you all are saying the right thing. You're saying that we don't accept that. You all are saying that we're going to get to the bottom of this and we're going to figure it out. We might not have the answer right now, but we're not going to stop the search. We're going to continue to search for the answer until we get the right answers so we can do right by our babies, so we can fix and create the types of systems that they deserve and that they demand. Right? We're not just going to get them the schools that they deserve. We're going to get them the schools that deserve them because they're valued.
Let me let Jim finish.
The other conversation that we've been having.
If the caller could wait. If the caller could.
What about learning games?
If the caller could.
With our babies, what about what's right with them?
Hey, Jim.
And what I'm learning in the research.
I don't know what to do, Chip. I can't talk over top of somebody, but you could mute the individual.
I am. Yeah. I'm trying.
We tell them that they can do well in life. That's what they end up doing. If they hear it enough.
I think it's the person that's calling the 313-303 phone number.
Yeah, I cannot mute the call. I'm trying to mute it right now. Let me see what I can do here. Yeah, someone's on a call with somebody else here, obviously.
People more valued positions. How can we have compassion for us? How can we have compassion for
I'm looking for where that's coming from. I do not.
Kind of like create and write a new way.
Hang on.
I think you got it. So I only have about one more minute, Chuck.
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead and finish.
So the intention is, and our competition would basically want to tear down the majority of the former Brodhead Armory. And our intention is to restore the entire building to its former glory. If we move forward, and this is subject to a community input and approval, we would add the additional tower. And what's interesting about this dotted line, it builds a pier, which if you actually look at November 11th, at the 11th hour, the sun is actually shining up right above this little intersection here down at the bottom right. And that's our Veterans Day pier. But what's really exciting is to take a look at this new potential, and this is all subject to change, but what you would find in each one of these towers, they would be color coded for each one of the services. And at the bottom left is a Veterans Plaza. And then we would have, I actually have access to a couple Navy boats. We would bring some boats back down there, or also if you had your own boat, you could dock there also. But we would have some museum ships that were operational down there, specifically the Great Box, which I'm in Toledo right now getting my 200-ton license. I'd like to bring that boat down there for a permanent dock right there at Brodhead. What's interesting about this tower is right behind it is the old building, and we were standing up on the very top, which we would like to establish as a beer garden. You could still watch the APBA Gold Cup hydroplane race from the top of that roof. You can also watch the Ford fireworks, and if you wanted to, and you're a big Grand Prix fan, you could even watch the Grand Prix from up there. But our intention is to restore Brodhead to its former glory. And then we'd have a combination of veterans groups on the first floor, the main drill deck. On the second floor, it'd be primarily SBA, STTR incubator, kind of like a version of Tech Town for government contracting and workforce development. And then since the building is architected with a lot of classrooms, we could do a lot of training or events, specifically training on STEM. So that is my presentation. You know, I can show you some old pictures of what these things. So this is kind of what the building looks like now. The reality is we brought some experts in here to take a look at this, and they said, this is no problem. We can restore all of this. No problem. So, you know, where some people think, well, maybe it's subject for demolition, it can't be restored. I brought people in that are a lot smarter than me, and they all said, no problem, we can take care of that one. And we have artists that want to come in here and work on the project from Cranbrook and Center for Creative Studies. This is a little bit of what we look like right now from Brodhead Association, BAPS, the architect, the banking companies, etc. And unfortunately, we're in a competition right now with the city to move forward. And we're in it right now. The issue is with the Detroit City Council to decide whether they're going to demolition the building or allow us to move forward with the restoration. And I think the answer is obvious. Anybody that's taken a close look at this would conclude that we are the best and highest use for the Brodhead Armory, and give us a chance to bring it back to life and open it back up to the community. So with that, Chip, I'm going to stop sharing. I did want to send out, I didn't have the slide on this one, but I did want to send out a link where you can go and register your support for our proposal to restore Brodhead. So I am going to pause here and turn it back over to you, Chip, for any questions.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. And I would just say that that link is actually in my last email to everybody. If you want to join, there's a petition on there to restore Brodhead. You can click on it. And I'll also have it on our website as well. Well, Jim, thanks. I always like to leave time. We have about 15 minutes for everybody to ask questions of Jim, anything you've seen, questions about where this project is going, etc. So if anybody would like to ask a question, go ahead. Any questions from the group?
Yes, I do. I have a question about
Okay.
Brodhead.
Go ahead.
I've been following the planning commission on this issue between the parade and the Brodhead, and they came up with the cost of the land they want to sell it for. $300,000 is no money for a riverfront project, and it's been sitting there for the longest. And I do like the VA plan better than I do the parade issue right quick, because it's more of a library that which we don't have in our community, for number one, and more technology for the kids or the adults in the neighborhood, I like. And it's quite a few, especially for the VA, because my father was an Army person, and I like that for the apartments.
Congratulations.
Okay, and so I just want to know who has the last say-so on getting this project from these proposals. Is it the city council? Is it the mayor? Or is it planning commission? Who has the last say-so? Is it a community, for number one? Can you answer that?
I like to think that it's the community, but we just even last Friday, Larry Cunard, his dad used to work at Brodhead, Tony Cunard. I knew him for many years before he passed. And Larry and I were flyering some of the marinas, some of the communities in Indian Village, some of the big apartment complexes adjacent to Brodhead. And the community, we couldn't find anybody that did not support the Brodhead Association plan to restore Brodhead. So it's a little bit confusing to me as to why this is not going forward as faster. But the decision to partition the land was made by the City Planning Commission last, their last meeting. And right now they've passed their final decision on to the Detroit City Council. So the Detroit City Council will make a decision as to whether to sell the land for $300,000 to the parade company or to allow Brodhead Association to move forward with the restoration of the building. We think, of course, I'm a big fan of the parade, Thanksgiving Day parade, the fireworks, etc. I just feel like Brodhead is very unique to the city with its artwork and the ability to restore it. So to tear it down is, you're kind of losing part of your soul. I think the parade company might better be served by creating a little bit of a renaissance in another part of the city and have better access to the parade route, the Thanksgiving Day parade route. So I'd like to see a win-win. And I'm hoping that the city council sees that same advantage. I wish I could answer your question a little bit more clearly, but we're at a point now where we need you to sign that petition so that we can convince the city council that it is the community that would like to see Brodhead restored. And let's find another wonderful home for the parade company. Over.
Thanks, Jim. Other questions?
Beverly Burns, I just have a follow-up question. Is it possible that there could be a sort of a joint collaborative use of the Brodhead that would incorporate the needs of the parade company? I have no idea what those needs are, but I know how huge the Brodhead Armory is. I drive by it all the time. And it would be lovely if there were a way to bring those two needs together, restore the building and provide the use for the parade company. Has there been conversation along those lines?
We've reached out to the parade company to try to engage in that type of dialogue, but it hasn't been successful to this point.
Other questions? Does that answer your question, Bev?
It's the best I'm going to get, I think, right?
So, Bev, I've written, it's not just me, because I'm just one of many people. I'm just a spokesperson for a much larger bench. But I know I've written several letters to the parade company and their executive director and some other members of the parade company and said, we'd love to work with you. Is there an opportunity to do that? And quite honestly, I've heard crickets. I hope you understand what I mean when I say crickets. There's been no response.
Thanks.
Can I ask you another question? When do you have to go back in front of the city council people, or as a planning commission? Which one you got to go back to?
Well, it appears that the final decision will be made by the Detroit City Council. So our focus right now is to convince the Detroit City Council that two plans is better than one. And secondly, that we have the resources, both financially and capability.
No, what date? You got a date set? You got a date set? That's what I want to know to be on the Zoom call. Do you have a date yet?
I haven't heard of any date. All I do know is that it will be soon.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thanks. Okay. I'll try to keep up with it.
Regina, I see you got your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I want to know from like in 1950, was there ever a naval base off the Detroit River near Tennessee Street?
Naval base near Tennessee Street. Not that I'm aware of.
Like near Fruit. Okay.
No, not that I'm aware of. Brodhead Armory was the only one. I was a drilling Navy reservist. We were originally out in Southfield, Then we were down in Brodhead. Then we moved out to Selfridge. And right now, the Navy has a presence in the Cranes building. And quite honestly, a lot of the artifacts from Brodhead Armory are sitting over in the Cranes building at Navy recruiting. There are also many of the artifacts sitting down at historic Fort Wayne in a warehouse. Some of them are sitting in Phil Winteringham's garage, in all places. So we've been able to identify where many of these, these pieces of art are have been moved to. People removed them because they were concerned that they were going to get destroyed or stolen, and so they removed them and put them in their houses, their private collections. And so we've been able to find a lot of these. And we're confident that they want to give them back to us, put them back into Brodhead. What I do know is that they do tear down, the parade company's proposal is to tear down 70,000 square feet of the 106,000 square foot building, just leave the auditorium. Unfortunately, that part of the building represents about 90% of the historical designation and the artwork. So if they do tear that down, that will be permanently lost. And you can't reconstruct it. Over.
Thanks, Regina, for the question. Other questions from the group? Anybody else? Jim, what is I know that YouTube video is available if anybody would like to see the whole thing. Do you have the address for that? Or
I can send you the link, and if you want to send it out. I did put the link in the PowerPoint presentation. A shorter method, if you want to do this on your own, go to YouTube and type in Sea Chest Hacala, Hacala. And his videos, he has a lot of nice, Master Chief Hacala has several videos out there. And there's two versions. One's a 22-minute version and the other one's a 14-minute version. So we had a chance to look at the 14-minute version. Over.
Okay. Another question. Another question popped up from Village Green. No? Let me say this. We have a couple minutes left here. I think the comment that was made, first of all, Jim, thank you for the overview on the restoration of Brodhead. It is one of the projects that is going on in the city of Detroit to make it better for everybody. Tamara, you got a question?
Yes, I just wanted to say it's awesome what you're doing. I think it's pretty cool and just a really cool thing and everything you accomplished, and thank you for your service. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Tamar. I want to add that I know John Williams. He was a former Navy guy. He runs the Ben Carson High School NJROTC program. They're hoping that we'll be successful so they can get the NJROTC in there. And likewise with the Golightly High School, the science and STEM group up by City Airport, they're hoping that we're successful so they can operate and do some of their STEM training at Brodhead. We're looking at, since Starbase, many of you probably haven't heard of Starbase, but Starbase is absolutely amazing. It's up at Selfridge. They have a model of the space shuttle up there. And they're running, most of the students in that STEM program come from Detroit Public Schools. Problem is, there's a 2-year waiting list to get into that school. So we worked out with Rick Sims to do some of that training at Brodhead and arrange for the buses and the transportation so the parents don't have to drive all the way up to Selfridge. They could just come to Brodhead and we would arrange transportation to get them up to Selfridge, which would be a win-win for Detroit Public Schools. Over.
Thanks, Jim. Amy, you have a question?
Yeah, hi, this is Amy from Charlottesville Village Association, and I have a question just about your proposal, and I like the proposal a lot better than the parade company. I like the idea of veterans restoring the building. But I'm still not willing yet to sign a petition or speak to the city council about approving your project until I hear more about the funding. And then if you are getting public funding, what kind of community benefits can you provide? What kind of guarantee with affordable housing? Have you talked to, other groups in the community? What has been the feedback, and what are you willing to provide for the community in terms of like a written agreement or guaranteed affordable AMI rates?
I don't know how I can answer that in the remaining time that we have here, Chip, but I'll try to.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
My information. Maybe you can post my information so that they can contact me offline and we can have a lengthy discussion on that. We obviously want to have the community input as to what is the best use for that facility, for that community. And so from a money standpoint, by maintaining a historical designation, that provides us opportunities to apply for different federal and state funding, where if that historical designation is removed and the parade company is successful there, that historical designation will go away. So those sources of money will go away. So the residential tower, the mechanism for obtaining one of those apartments, and we'll give preferential treatment to single moms, single dads, people returning veterans and things like that. That model really needs the input from the community as to how we want to manage that. We don't look like, this is not entirely a private decision. This is a public decision that we want the community input to be involved in. So I think it's a better model than just having a dictatorial approach from a private developer coming in and say, well, this is how it's going to happen, and we don't care what the community thinks. We're taking a complete 180-degree approach to this and saying, hey, what's going to work best for the community?
Thanks, Jim.
And I can talk to you further about it. I'd love to have the input. Over.
And I see, Regina, do you have another question, or is that left over from your last question? You're on mute. Okay. Well, listen, we are okay. You're done. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. And Jim, thank you for this informative overview. I will just reinforce what somebody posted, I think it was Joe Zent, who actually was stationed at Brodhead, is the decision on what happens at the Armory, the Brodhead, is up to the citizens. Each of you, if you live in the neighborhood, if you live in Detroit, has a voice. And you can express that voice to your city council member. In our case, it's Mary Sheffield, who is our District 5 council member. And if you support the program, you should let your voice be known, or whatever you think is the right way to go, because the ultimate decision is the citizens of Detroit. And that's why we wanted to do this, to give this some visibility so you knew what was going on. But we're always open for questions, follow up. If you have a question, shoot it to me and I'll get it to Jim. Our next meeting is going to be April the 15th. It'll be Thursday, April the 15th from 5 to 6 again. Tom Evans is on with me, my counterpart in crime with Rivertown, and Constance may be here, but we all appreciate you being here. We eventually down the road, we'll get together again in person, but for the time being, for safety, we're going to do it by Zoom. But thank you all. Everybody have a great rest of the evening. We appreciate your time. And Jim, thank you so very much for the overview. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.